Hi guys, we are back to the now for something entirely different. We're getting ready for a long trip to Maine, and it's a really long trip, roughly around 4,000 miles. So we have certain preparations that we have to do, and take care of the camera helmets, take care of the machine, make sure the machine is working properly, and also taking care of Mini-Me. Now you guys have not seen Mini-Me, but you will, and I will introduce you to Mini-Me. So Mini-Me is how do you say, Tina's child. So we're going to be trying out today the new helmet camera. We're going to be trying out the GPS. We're going to be trying out the new communication system that I have with Denise, and to make sure that it's working properly. And with God willing, you're going to be able to hear her voice on this trip, and not just mine as we're being recorded. So come along with us, and as we go to the different things that we're going to have to try out. Let's go over to AAA to be able to get all the maps and everything that we need. I always like to have paper maps along with my GPS, because paper maps don't need batteries or don't need any satellite coverage or anything, and it's a good thing to have. Now we're going to check the oil on Tina here. Now, according to the manufacturer, there's a specific way of doing this. You're supposed to go out, ride the motorcycle for a minimum of 2 miles, then come back in a level area, let it idle for approximately 1 to 2 minutes, then you're going to shut it off, and then you have approximately 1 minute or 2 in order to check the oil. According to the manufacturer, that is the correct way of doing it. Not like we normally do. We just take the dipstick out, wipe it, put it in, and find out what comes out. So we're going to do a little experiment here. We're going to do it according to the manufacturer, and let's see what the oil level is. We're going to let Tina cool down a little bit and let everything settle down. We're going to check the oil again like we normally do on a vehicle, and then let's figure it out if there is a difference and how much of a difference there truly is. Okay, so let's give this thing a shot. Okay, so now we went ahead and we turned her off after 2 minutes of idling. And I want to see how I'm going to do this. They do it on YouTube all the time with one hand, but I really don't know how they can do that. Yeah, make me feel foolish. Here we go. We take the dipstick out. We go ahead and we'll wipe it. We'll put it back in. Open it up, take a look. And according to this, nice full level. So we're doing good. The oil looks good, does not smell burnt, and so those are the things that we want to look at. Not just that does it have enough oil, but the condition of the oil, because oil is the life of the engine. All right, so we've gone ahead and checked the oil, and we're going to let it idle for a bit and just kind of rest, and we'll see if there's a difference in how it looks like in the oil. See why the manufacturer recommends that. All right, we'll see you in a little bit. Well, we're back, and waited about an hour, so we'll see if there's a difference in the oil level than what we had before after waiting an hour, and see if it makes a big difference according to what the manufacturer says. Let's find out. Okay, the only thing it shows that it's a little more fuller than previous. So I guess that when you check the oil like you would a regular automobile, it shows that it has a little bit more oil than what it does, which in reality, for the amount that it's talking about, it's not going to make that big of a difference. We'll have to check tomorrow and see what happens when you leave it overnight, see if there's any more difference in that. So so far our experiment shows that really it's not that big of a deal. And I gotta tell you that the way they ask to check the oil on this thing is it's a little bit of a chore. So we'll see tomorrow. So you guys take care, and this will run till tomorrow. And I'll also introduce you to Mini-Me, by the way. Well, this is Mini-Me. Mini-Me is my little travel trailer, and it's a really nice trailer. It's top. It is a Legend trailer, which is Harley Davidson's trailer. Runs real well on the Spyder, and as you can see, it has the swivel hitch, which makes it a lot smoother. In the front here we have a cooler that we can put food and fruit there, and then we also have like a little miniature pantry that I put together there, so we can put some, you know, snacks and stuff like that. We come over here, I'm going to open up Mini-Me so you can see what it looks like inside. And as you can see, it carries a lot of stuff. It covers all our camping gear, our kitchen, and also we have plenty of room to put clothing and whatever else we want to be able to put in. Mimi is, it comes in handy, and it makes the travel a lot more easier. So we want to go camping, want to go fishing, we want to go and just travel. Mini-Me really does a good trip. It's hooked up, and the wiring harness is disconnected completely, so it's completely hidden. And anytime if I don't want to hitch, I can just take the hitch off. It's also portable to take off. Just a couple of bolts and that's it, and the hitch comes off. So that's our little trailer, and then we're going to be traveling in. So I introduce you formally to Mini-Me. Well, we're doing now the last part of our little experiment with the oil. Tina's been sitting overnight, and she's nice and cool. So the next thing we're going to do is check the oil and see by any chance if there's a big difference in the oil level. Well, I've been practicing the one hand jobber. See if it works out. Okay. Wipe this nice and clean. Here we go. Put it back in there. And we pull it out, and interesting, it shows that the oil is not even full. Instead of being more oil, it's a lot less oil than what's in there. That's very interesting. Either way, it does make a big difference to do it as the manufacturer says, compared to just in the morning checking for the oil. Very important to do it like they said. We have an appointment to go over to Route 1, which is my my place to go, to have Tina completely checked out. Talk to Tim. I really trust them, and they've been real good to me. Never had any issues at all with any one of our trips after doing this checkout that we're doing. Well, we're finally here. We're gonna walk into the service. More likely, I'm gonna have Mike. He's probably behind the service desk, so well, let's give this thing a shot. Hey, Mike.
Hey, George, how you doing?
Nice to see you, buddy.
Nice to see you too.
Hey, listen, you know, I'm trying to put something together here because, you know, I always bring my bike to you. You guys are the gurus. I mean, you're the man, and I always bring it to you. What's your title here, by chance?
I'm the service advisor.
All right, and for you to go over the bike when I take this really long trip. And I'm always concerned about making sure that everything is up to tip-top shape. So I bring it to you guys. You're my personal service center.
Well, we enjoy you being here, George. Thank you for coming.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about, what some of the things and so on. Are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
All right, fantastic. I bring the bike in whenever I take a long trip, because I think a catastrophic failure on the road on a motorcycle is completely different than an automobile.
Absolutely.
You blow a tire on a motorcycle, you can go all over the place.
Right.
So I do bring it to you. What do you check? I mean, what do you do to it?
Okay, so when you bring your bike into a certified, an authorized service center to have it checked out, we're going to check a lot of different things. There's actually a checklist, and this great that I have these with me. There's a checklist that we actually go through. And I'll give you a copy of this. But your typical stuff for your engine that we go through, you change the oil and check the spark plugs. Check for any issues. We inspect the drive belt, pulleys, all the brakes, the tires, tire tread, tire pressure, suspension. We go through the electronics with the computer, of course. We're going to talk about brakes, and then, of course, anything that would indicate there's a problem with the body or anything like that. And that's just our standard checklist that we go through. But the computer software that we use to connect to the computer allows us to see into all of the systems that the bike checks on its own before, as it's riding down the road, just like you do with an automobile. And that gives us better insight into what's actually going on with the bike. So we can see potential things building up, but you're not going to be able to check in a pre-trip inspection. So it is important to have it checked out. Fluids changed, everything topped off and done before you take a long trip, just to make sure that you're really working. Okay, get a clean bill of health. But once we're beyond that, or you've done that, then there are some things that you're going to want to check on your own. Should we go into that?
Well, I wanted to ask you something, because this is a big thing all over the place, is checking the oil.
Okay.
And if you look at the manual, it's the most complicated oil check that I've ever seen. On my bike, and each one is different, I'm assuming.
It is.
You have to look at your own manual. I have to go 2 miles of driving, then I got to come back, and then I got to let the darn thing idle for 5 minutes. Then I got like 2 or 3 minutes to check the oil before I have to do the whole process all over again, which seems like, oh my gosh, I'm jumping through all kinds of hoops. I was going to do a little experiment to find out the difference, and I went ahead and I did it according to manufacturer, and then I did it, I let the bike cool down and everything else, and I measured again. And I found that the oil was a little higher than it was originally. What is the reason for doing it that way?
Well, the Spyders have a partial sump oil pan. And so what happens is that when the bike is not running, the oil collects in the sump in the bottom of the bike. When you're testing the oil, the dipstick goes into the pan. And so the oil collects down at the bottom because it's not up at the top of the engine. That's the reason that you need to run it, to get it up to operating temperature, to circulate the oil from the sump back throughout the engine so that you get an accurate reading of what the oil level is. And yes, if you check the oil level cold, it will give you a false reading. So each bike is different. You do need to read the manual. On yours, you say it's a 2-mile ride and 5 minutes island. On the newer ones, it's actually a little longer than that. I'm not exactly sure why they changed it, but they are. But it's right there in your manual, and it tells you exactly the procedure. Okay, so a couple things that we're going to check right away. Obviously, this is a worn-out rear tire. You see these little bars across the tires? These are wear bars. The wear bars are there so that it's very easy to identify when the tread is down to the point that it's no longer properly dispersing the water out of the way, and it's possible to hydroplane very easily, and this is where it needs to be replaced. When you get near to these bars, you need to change them. Now, that's at 2/32 of an inch typically. Now, you can pick this up at pretty much any auto or any kind of auto shop in the world. But all you have to do with this is push this down, and when you pull that up, it'll show you that you're at 2/32 right there, which is the absolute minimum that you can be to disperse water on a tire. Now, moving to your tires, obviously you're not that low. So you take your tread depth gauge, go to the center and press it down, And you, sir, are at 8/32 of an inch on tread, which is plenty of tread to disperse water. So this tire is roadworthy. Now, I'm not sure exactly how new they are, but you do want to pay close attention to the outer edges of the tires when they wear down to the point, because that's where you ride when you're turning and you're in the corners. Tire pressure is also very important. Your tire pressure is in your manual. It's also on a sticker underneath the seat of your bike. The Can-Am recommends 20 in the front and 28 in the rear. Now you can adjust that up or down, kind of a pound or two here and there for whatever type of riding makes you more comfortable. Just bear in mind that heavier loads, you may want to put an extra pound in it. Also, though, bear in mind that the higher tire pressure in the tire makes the tire more rigid, which makes it more susceptible to road hazard. So just keep those things in mind. It's not a bad idea to pay attention to how long you've had the tires on the bike. So if this is the first long trip that you're taking, and you've had the bike for a long time, and the tires have been on the bike between 7 and 10 years, it's probably a good idea to put new tires on it, just because they do age out. You need to look for dry cracking in the sides or inside the tread that would indicate the tire is getting old. Because you don't want to have a blowout, especially on 2 or 3 wheels. It'll create a much more dangerous situation for you. There's a couple of things that you're going to want to know. First of all, how old is the battery? Have you had any issues with the battery discharging or anything of that nature? Because the battery is very vital to the way that the systems work on this bike. So to give you an example, if your battery has less than 11 volts in it, your parking brake won't operate. Okay. There are several systems inside the electronics of the bike that share fuses or buses, and when your voltage or your amperage starts dropping, the alternator, which the bike does have, will run the bike, but under loads, like in let's just say, for sake of argument, that you're running the Dragon and you're all those turns, if your battery is low, your DPS, your power steering unit, pulls a lot of amperage. So if your battery is not at full peak charge or really healthy, it can cause some problems where you may end up having some issues with your steering, or you may start getting vehicle stability system codes or something of that nature because things are not powered up properly. So have the battery load tested before you take a trip. And if it is on the weak side, possibly replace it. And I believe that you actually carry your old battery as a spare, don't you?
Yes, I do.
It's not a bad
I do that. I've had the battery go out on me and had the power steering go out on me, and it ain't no fun at all.
Sure,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. So, Mike, I carry a trailer. Do I have to worry about anything about that? You know, the weight and stuff, or?
Well, there are some load limits. When you have a trailer hitch installed on the bike, the maximum tongue weight should be no more than 40 pounds. Okay, so, and the pull weight should be less than 400. And that's pretty much standard across all of the Spyders. As far as I know, now check your manual, but it may vary between certain years, but every year that I've looked at with the RT, it's 40 pounds and 400 pull weight. The maximum capacity of the bike itself has changed over the years. I believe that your bike has somewhere around a 480 to 500 pound passenger and cargo weight limit on the bike itself. The newer ones have a little bit higher. I think there's about 75 more pounds they can carry on them. But again, it's in your manual on each individual bike, and it'll tell you also, I actually have that on paper here, that will give you the pressure settings for the shock for the amount of weight that you're carrying on that. And I'm going to give you all of this, George.
Yeah, not a problem. I'll put it up on.
Yeah, but there is, when you're carrying heavier weight, you want more weight, you want higher pressures in your suspension system. And so here, as you can tell, this is passenger plus cargo, the weights, and there's the PSI that you should have it set at for each one. Driver, cargo, and what you set the weights at, or your suspension to. So then it'll give you the safest ride.
Now I know that my manual pressure spigot or whatever the connection is underneath the seat. Is that where I would measure the pressure?
Yep.
Okay.
It is. Some of the newer systems have an auto leveling compressor where it kind of does it on its own.
Right.
But you can always adjust it yourself. So yeah, that little Schrader valve.
Fantastic, fantastic. Mike, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. I want to thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
Always a pleasure.
And I think you'll put some spike into some of the things that we need to really look at before we take this long trip. For me, it's been a long prep, and I just want the people to know all the things that we've gone through and to make sure that everything is nice and safe.
Well, I'm excited to see the videos of the trip itself. I wish I could go with you.
That's the end of our video. I want to thank again Route 1 Motorsports and also Mike Fletcher for allowing me to do that interview. I thought it was very informative. But as you can see, there's a lot of preparation before we take off and take one of these long trips. And if you do not take that preparation, you're really asking for trouble. And believe me, on the road is not a place to start having trouble. You all take care of yourself. Stay safe out there.